What's going on, my planting people? My name is Lithius and welcome back to Roots Ready. In today's episode, I'm going to go through 5 plants that I am loving at the moment. All of the plants I'm going to show you have had some sort of a journey to get to where they are today. Maybe all apart from one, but I'll save that one till the end because I think of these 5, it definitely is at the top of my list. This right here is my Anthurium CUTUCUENSE. Now, the last time you would have seen this plant was when I did a massive propagation on it. Now, this plant was quite large, it was growing quite big. Now, since the propagation, this plant has gone on to do some just amazing things. So after the propagation, there were 5 cuttings that we had. This was the top cutting, or is the top cutting, and it's the one that's done the most vigorous growing in the shortest space of time. I still haven't got this plant up on a moss pole yet, and that's certainly something I have to do. When I first got this plant, it actually took a while to start to mature. When I first got it, it had 2 mature leaves on it, but unfortunately it started to regress, and I think for the next couple of leaves it only had about 2 blades. So I was really keen to get this thing to get back to this stage, and luckily this top cutting has maintained that mature growth. So every single leaf on this plant has that sort of that forked shaped leaf. We even have a little baby over here which is coming through as well. So I definitely want to make sure that I get this thing on the moss pole just to sort of maintain that growth. It's getting quite long, quite spindly, so I definitely want to get it some of that support so that it can just continue on this path that it's taking. It's a gorgeous plant, but let me show you what the other cuttings look like. So as you can see, these plants have been very slow in their growth. We have 2 of them that I've started to push through, one sort of more further along. Now this one over here, this was the base cutting, so this one was very well rooted in this pot, and I think that's probably why it has the most growth. It's actually a bit slower than I expected or anticipated it to be, but here we go. These 2 were sort of mid cutting sections, and as you can see, this one over here clearly has grown a little bit more than the other. This one, you can see some signs of growth, but it's definitely taken the longest. Now, there was a 5th cutting, as I said, but it literally only yesterday sold on my eBay store, so that one's now gone. If you are based in the UK and you want to keep track of some of the plants that I have very occasionally up for sale, definitely follow my eBay page, which will be linked in the description below. So that was the CUTUCUENSE. It's doing absolutely fab. And who knows what next year has in store. I think I'm going to aim to double the height of this and get these leaves to grow even bigger, thicker, and just have a much more robust plant. If you've been following my channel for a while, you would know that last winter was not a good one for my plants. In fact, I lost quite a number of plants because of the very cold weather. And also, I think I've learnt a lot because I had a lot of my plants in pond and I kept them in a reservoir. And I think the bitterly cold weather plus having that moisture in the roots 24/7 wasn't a good recipe. And one of the plants that I lost was actually my Philodendron Patriciae, a plant that I had on my wish list for a very long time. It grew quite well, but unfortunately, it kicked the bucket. So what I did was I actually went ahead and I bought a replacement. So it's been maybe 2 weeks since I've been trying to save this Philodendron Patriciae, and let me give you an update on what it looks like now. Boom. This is it. Yeah, we didn't do it. It didn't make it. What a shame. What a shame. But don't worry about that. I think I know how to fix this. You buy a new one, just like that. Now what happened was, this was a single node cutting, and as to be expected, that mother leaf actually died off, so it's almost like starting the plant again. And I'm going to show you what this plant looks like now, and I'm super proud of it. Have a look at that. It's only little, so this is the largest leaf that it has to date. Interestingly enough, I actually almost lost this seedling. what happened was, I believe it was in moss, and I kept it in moss for a long time just to sort of root out, and I would just water it just very lightly, a little drop of water in this very same pot. I went in thinking that on a weekly basis the water would have been used up by the plant, and then it would be bone dry, so that's why I would go in again and water it. And I actually did that without taking the plant out of its cash pole, like so, and checking to see if there was any water left in the pot. Eventually, when I decided to look in it, I realized that almost half of the pot was filled with water, and it actually had a bit of a smell, which indicated that there was some root rot going on under the surface. So immediately I had to go in, change out the moss, put in some soil. I put it in some dry soil just to sort of really like just take out a lot of that moisture from the roots, and then I probably gave it like a week just to rest, and then I started watering it very, very slowly, and luckily the plant seems to bounce back. In fact, this leaf was just on its way out when this happened, and I thought I would lose this leaf. This actually looks like a very beautiful leaf, and I'm really happy that it's actually okay. The only thing I've noticed is that the rate of growth has slowed down, but that's to be expected. So I'm hoping this winter to give this plant the right type of TLC that it needs to thrive and survive. This plant right here, I've never featured on this channel before, and I don't know why. I randomly found this plant online one day, and it was being sold as a seedling. And the reason that I went for this is because it is a hybrid between a Anthurium luxurian and Forgetii. And when you've seen the mature version of that hybrid, ooh la la, it is to die for. It is beautiful. So when I saw it for sale, very cheap, it was under £20, I said to myself, I've always wanted a luxurians, it's always been outside of my price point, so I'm going to try this out. Plus it looks really, really gorgeous when it matures, so let's give it a go. It came in my collection, and it was actually a little bit larger than I thought. When I took it out of the grow tent today, I noticed that the oldest leaf had actually yellowed and fallen off, so this was it. So it can give you a flavor of what the size was. So it wasn't a seedling at all, and this was one of the leaves on there as well. So I was actually very pleasantly surprised as to just how large this plant was. And since then, this plant has not disappointed me. It has been a very rapid grower. I do have it growing in a mixture of pon and leca, but a very, very chunky semi-hydro substrate that I think the plant just seems to like, because it is growing really, really well. Just look at those leaves. Look how that just, almost iridescent. Look at that. Another thing that I've actually noticed, and I was going to move on, but I'll come back to this, was that it's certainly taken on some of the traits of the luxurians, in that its petioles here are actually square. And it looks really, really interesting. I don't think I have another Anthurium in my collection with those sort of square petioles. So I'm really, really happy to have this one in the collection. And I will definitely keep you up to date with its growth and development. I think this is going to be a shocker. I think this is going to be one of those plants that explodes in growth, and it's going to be one of my favorites, just a reoccurring one in this segment. The third plant I'm going to show you is one that was a regular contender for the top spot in my favorites video. This was way back when, last year. As I said, with the Philodendron Patriciae, last year was not a good year for some of my plants, and I lost some of my favorite plants in my collection. One of them that I lost was actually my CYRTOSPERMA johnstonii. I remember somebody commented on my videos that I think it's not pronounced CYRTOSPERMA, but I couldn't quite find that comment. So if I'm saying it wrong, let me know in the comments below what the pronunciation is. What happened was I managed to get my hands on a replacement of this plant. It was just a single node, just one leaf. I propagated it, and it took a while before it started to show any signs of growth. In fact, that main leaf actually ended up dying before a new leaf even emerged. Fast forward a couple months till today, and this is what we are working with. Let me take a step back so you can really appreciate the growth this plant has had. So we started off with a leaf maybe around this size, which then died off. And then since then, it's just decided to just keep putting out these absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous leaves. Oh my goodness. There's something about this red venation on the green backdrop that just does it for me. It is just such a beautiful plant. I just like everything about this plant. Honestly, I think the leaves are striking, the lobes, the way that, you know, it has those deep lobes, and eventually as it matures, it's actually going to turn upside down. So the leaves actually grow like this, which is, in my head, this is upside down, right? For the plant, is the right way up. But so that's really striking. I think it's really beautiful. The stems, the petioles, as you can see, they're really textured. It's almost got that leopard print kind of design on it, and it's also very spiky. It's got those little thorns just to protect the plant against predators in the wild, I imagine. You can imagine my joy when I looked at this plant today and I said, wow, you've actually come such a long way from where we started. And I'm hoping that I don't have a repeat of last year where the winter gets too cold and the plant ends up dying. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to try to keep it as warm as possible. That might mean also insulating the bottom, because this plant actually grows in like marshy environments. It can actually be grown as an aquarium plant as well. So it does like that sort of, it wants to be wet all the time, right? But that and the cold winters, it's not a good mix. So I'm going to try to find a way to keep this warm. If push comes to shove, I'm going to have to stick it on a heat mat. But it's a lot to do for one plant, I think. But we'll see how we get on with it. But this is the CYRTOSPERMA johnstonii. Okay, so the final plant that I want to show you, and one that fills me with just so much joy, and I couldn't wait to show you. And it's actually the reason why I decided to film this video today, because I haven't done a favorites video in a while. Very naughty, I know. Apologies. They are coming back online. It's going to be a main fixture. I was looking in my plant cabinet today and I saw it and I was like, damn, this thing looks 10 out of 10. It looks amazing, and I have to show you guys this plant. It is none other than my Anthurium PELTIGERUM. Guys, oh my days. Look at that. Look at that. The last time you saw this plant, I believe this was the oldest leaf. And quite large. Look at the size of it. Oh my goodness. But we've got a new contender for the top spot. Look at that. Look how lovely. Oh my. Words can't explain. Words can't describe. Just look at that leaf. Oh my days. I just didn't expect this plant to grow so quickly, so rapidly, and to look so just divine. I'm running out of words to compliment this plant. It's just incredible. And a super fast grower. In fact, just on the bottom there, it's already pushing out a new leaf. I would love for this plant to, you guys know I'm a hybridizer when it comes to my anthuriums. I would love for this thing to actually put out an inflorescence so I can play around with it. I don't know if it would be receptive. I don't know if it's even fertile. I don't really know anything. It hasn't done it for me yet. As I said, this plant came in, it was quite a small, decent sized plant. But since then, it's only ever put out leaves for me, which is fine. I'm not complaining. I love the leaves. But I would love to just to see what the inflorescence looks like, and just to sort of use some pollen from some of my other plants and see what crazy, interesting, Frankenstein looking plants we can get out of this. But this is none other than the Anthurium PELTIGERUM. Woo! Ooh la la! Damn! Well, that is all. Those are my top 5 favorite plants for November 2023. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did, clearly. Especially this one. Look at it! Ah! Look at it! But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep planting.